Common sense is tough to find today. Get your dose with me, Gary Wellings, at the Drift Radio Show. We'll tackle the tough national issues and cut no slack to the left or right. Catch my drift on Red Nation Rising Radio.
The highest quality tractor in the U.S. and number one in customer satisfaction for 2015 and again in 2016 is LS Tractor, both awarded by EDA. This is Mark at Ashelman Equipment. We have a full line of LS four-wheel drive diesel tractor loaders ready to go. Forks, blades, tillers, plows, and mowers in stock, ready for all your projects. Subcompact to large farm, opener cab with heat and AC. Hydro transmissions make driving fun and easy for the whole family. Attachments are changed with just a pull of a lever. Highest quality, more features standard, 5-year warranty, free loader, and 1.59% financing qualifying. Ashelman Equipment in Whitmore Lake is at exit 50 on US 23, just north of Ann Arbor. Call 734-994-6000. That's 734-994-6000.
It's time to change your life. Lose up to 70% of your excess weight in the first year. Begin your journey with Michigan Bariatric Institute. Free monthly educational seminars at St. Joe's Livingston. Learn more at stjoeshealth.org/MBI.
Wham! Talk 1600. You're catching the drift. Conservative talk. Intelligent conversations on local, state, and national issues with Gary Wellings, chief editor of the Current newspaper and Current Online. Join in the conversation at 734-822-1600. And now, your host, Gary Wellings.
And welcome to The Drift. Good to have you along with us. We're not obviously at Wham Studios today. We're doing a special little Christmas edition with two of my best friends in the entire world, Joe Ballmer.
Good to see you, Gary.
And Pat Tavolacci.
Merry Christmas to all.
Hosting us down in the bunker at the Tavolacci compound here in West Brighton. So glad to have you along. And hopefully this will turn out well and we'll be able to get it up on the website. So, gentlemen, lots happening in the world today, and I guess we're kind of watching the news in silence as we sit here in the bunker. And the biggest news is the German attack this week, right? So, what do you think is the reason the Germans don't seem to have their stuff together? I mean, the guy walks away from that kind of, and they picked up the wrong guy. How can that happen?
Well, the guy's been in surveillance for years, since he entered Germany. The strategy of Angela Merkel is to invite 1 million refugees into their country. And I think it's probably one of her last major acts as Prime Minister of Germany, because with all the things that have gone on here recently, and specifically this attack, she's on the hook, period.
Yeah. Joe, you were talking before we started here that, the one thing that you really like about Trump is his, you called it anti-Muslim. I think it's just, if it were crazy Baptists from another part of the world, he'd be against the crazy Baptists from another part of the world. So I don't think it's a religious bias type of thing. I think there are just a group of people represented in this case, this time by Islam, right, that are creating havoc around the planet.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the list of terrorist activities that have happened in the world over the last 20 whatever years, I mean, I'm sure it goes back a long time, but particularly in the last 20 or so years, what seems to be the common denominator again and again? It's radicalized Muslims are behind it.
Right. Yeah, and you talk about moderate Muslims, and hey, we've all got friends who happen to be Muslim. The one thing that bothers me is they don't seem to be talking enough as moderate Muslims about saying this is wrong. These people are not us. They're not standing up against these radicalized Muslims and saying enough is enough. That's not us. Let's help you get these people under control. They're not doing that.
Right. According to statistics of the 1.6 billion Muslims in the world, 7 to 8% of them say that there's justification for attacks against humanity perpetrated by Muslims because of their religion.
Yeah. Is that the Pew Research poll you're pulling up there?
This is actually just down here on MP. This is NPR actually.
Okay.
But yeah,
the bad word. NPR.
No, understand. But what NPR does do is reference things like the Pew Report,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So you're talking about 128 million people in the world that are radicalized.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that Pew Research poll showed that 40% or 30% of Muslims right here in the United States believed Sharia law should overrule the Constitution in this country. So even your moderate Muslims are a bit of a problem.
They are.
You know, and I guess for me it's more than that. When we talk cultural suicide, which is what the Germans seem to be doing over there, even here in this country, if you are not familiar with the Quran, I would highly suggest people go out and buy a copy.
Yeah,
English
you've read
version.
it. You've
I
read
have
it
read
cover
it.
to cover.
I'll be honest with you. In my mid-30s, right, I was kind of lost spiritually. I was looking for something. I'd been baptized as a Christian. I was Episcopalian. And I was looking for something different. So I bought a copy of the Quran. I read through it. And by the time I got to the end, it was like, this is a load of bunk for me. I mean, some people may like it, but it was a special dispensation. Any religion that puts one person and gives them favoritism above someone else, that's not equality. For me, that's not right. And that was it for me. I thought to myself, you know, Muhammad's a Democrat. One set of rules for him, but a different set of rules for everyone else.
Correct.
And when you look at places like Iran and Saudi Arabia, it seems to be the same thing. You know, the high and mighty get something special, and the low-class people get the shaft.
Right.
And that is not me, and I don't like it. You know what I mean?
Well, it sounds like the Obama administration, quite frankly.
Yeah. Well, you know, I work for a German firm, and I'm over there 4 or 5 times a year. And I was over there actually last July when the attacks happened in Nice by a Tunisian, and I'm going to be over there again in January. And I work with very intelligent people over there, and I'm really looking forward to hearing firsthand from them to see. I kind of have my pulse on my finger on the pulse of their opinions, and I'm looking forward to seeing in January whether they're swaying a little bit on their, I would say, liberal view towards immigration.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, neither one of you have been traveling to France lately, right?
No,
I know you
I
both
haven't.
travel a lot.
Yeah.
And you think Marine Le Pen is going to actually pull off something in France with those elections?
Yeah, it's entirely possible, right? I mean, there's a nationalism sweep going on, right? So that could
Yeah,
happen.
absolutely. And I've got some, certainly a couple sites in the work that I do that are down there in France, one outside of Paris and one in the south of France. And they're extremely troubled by what's going on. And I think nationalism is exactly the right word that Joe used. Brexit is the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was happy. I had talked to a guy just before the Brexit, and he was and it was a guy I think you know, and he was kind of mixed about it happening or not. He was a little worried about the fallout economically, which I think has now proven itself not to be as disastrous as they thought it would be. And I think if that nationalism comes as part of self-preservation, and let's be honest, even if every Muslim in the world were honest, or not, that's a bad term, were peaceful loving,
Right.
they would still be outbreeding us and pushing the Sharia to the point where, you know what, they're going to make it hard for Christians and Jews and agnostics and even atheists to live. You know, it becomes part of that jizya, which is the payment, what infidels as we are called, because that's what we are. We don't believe that. And so we suffer in some way or another. And that is the Quran. If you haven't read the Quran, it says destroy the infidel. And it says make them pay tax otherwise, you know. And people can interpret that in different ways. But there's never been a reformation in the Islamic community that the Christians had. You know what I mean? The Christians in the past, yes, they had their problems too. You know, don't go back to the Crusades. I'm going to blame the Crusades on the Muslims. That's not on the Christians. You know, people like Barack Obama want to twist it around and say it was the Christians invading. No, there were enclaves of Christendom in that area when the Muslims came in. So, hey, that's the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, you know, look, there's radicalized sects in all over the world.
Yeah, in all religions.
But they're not doing what these folks are doing. The good news is that when you look at, you know, France, you look at Germany, and you look at some of these perpetrators here recently, they're on a list.
Yeah.
These people are being watched.
Yeah, and they're not being picked up and thrown out.
How do they slip through? How do you not get... So this individual doesn't get deported because Tunisia doesn't claim him on a passport. So he stays.
I didn't get that part at all.
I don't get it.
If you don't want him in your country, and you can't prove, if he can't prove where he's from, dump him in the ocean, right? I mean, game over, right? You're getting out of my country if you're a bad guy.
Right.
Yeah, give him the choice. I'm going to parachute you in somewhere. You're gone. I'm going to leave you in a rubber raft off the shores of Libya or wherever. Go back to where you think you can get along best with. You know what? No man's land in Syria. I'm going to take you off and drop you on a beach in Syria. You figure it out, man.
Well, how about this? How about Trump opens up a private sanctity in Guantanamo Bay for these folks and charges these countries for locking up these individuals in our prison system, our military prison system.
Well, someone else is about to get that opportunity.
That's correct.
Yeah, well, we're going to see, and I think this is, again, where Trump is on the right side of this. He's going to tell those countries that refuse to take back, say, Venezuelans or Costa Ricans, not Costa Rica, let's face it, but Hondurans, whatever, M13 gang members, that they won't take them back when we want to deport them. I'm going to cut off their visas and everything else so that it makes it hard economically for them to exist if they won't take their people back. And I think that's just holding them accountable. Right?
And where are the Muslim leaders standing up for their people? Right? We said 128 million could be radicalized out of 1.6 billion. Where are the leaders saying, "Hey, these few don't represent us"? I don't see any outrage in that community.
I mean, I'm not in that community, so I don't know how they talk internally. Okay, but clearly, I'm listening hard for someone to come out and say that.
Where is it?
And it just isn't. It isn't prevalent.
No,
it's somebody needs to fix it. I'm hoping Trump is going to fix it. You and I always think about what Trump will or will not do. It's going to be interesting to see what happens after January 20th when he gets into office. I have great expectations. I think a lot of us do, and there's going to be some really hurt feelings by some of us if he doesn't follow through, at least on the basics of securing the border.
Right.
Build a wall, be it a fence, a wall, or whatever. I want something there, some kind of a barrier.
Well, here's the difference that I see in the cabinet that he's put together, and they're only worth about $13 billion collectively, FYI, is they're business people. Business people have accountability. Politicians don't have accountability.
Correct.
So now if you're in charge of human services, if you're in charge of Homeland Security, you're going to have metrics. And if you can't deliver the metrics,
yes, where's your deliverables?
You're fired.
Yes, get your deliverables together.
Absolutely. This is the difference in what's going on right now. Whether you agree with Trump and all the dynamics that he brings to the party or not, that all that's whatever. But his cabinet is going to be accountable.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm praying and hoping for, and that's what I see in what he's doing today.
Yeah, I was listening to a show the other day, and somebody brought up the idea of baseline budgeting, right? Which is a disaster. That's what's got us to $20 trillion in debt, where they just keep giving you the same budget plus an extra % over the next year. And that's nonsense. Prove what you've got in your budget. Have you accomplished your deliverables in that period of time? If not, we're going to take money back out of that budget. And if you've accomplished everything but don't need any more, we're not going to give you the extra anymore either.
Yeah.
So lay somebody off.
Absolutely.
And to Pat's point, that's where businessmen operate differently.
Yeah.
Right.
And a politician never does, because you know what? That money is just an open purse for them.
And if you want to see that in real life here in the beautiful state of Michigan, on March 31st, look for the salt piles on your road in the last snow of the year.
Yeah,
because the budget has to get met, so you dump the salt to get more salt. That's what Gary is talking about, instead of zero-based budgeting, which is what I have to live by. In business, Joe, I'm sure you have to live by as well.
You can be sure.
It's show me from zero to your budget how you need to get there. Last year already happened. What are we doing now?
Right. Well, let's kind of change venue a little bit here. Let's talk fake news because it's kind of tied